So it's 1 p.m. October 8th, and I'm in Gretna, Louisiana, and Hurricane Nate is starting to come in, and the skies are pretty black. We haven't gotten much rain yet. It's just a little bit of a drizzle on and off. This is what we're seeing right now. Bad weather's going to probably start coming in any second.
Learn more at basf.us/LA. BASF, we create chemicals. Fall is here, and along with cooler temperatures, will bring you great rewards. Thank you for so much and right cents from Super Time. For a limited time, you can receive up to a $100 Super Tire prepaid card when you buy a set of 4 qualified tires, including a high-performance Super you want. For all packages, Super CN5 coolers, the rugged Super Server 80, and many more. For more information, or to find a Super Tire stop by Delta World Tire or online at deltaworldtire.com. WWS's news at 102. I'm Don Ames on your official weather station, WWLAM.com. And don't expect any better weather the rest of the day. Well, our weather will be going downhill today and overnight tonight. Looks like it will improve for Sunday. So by sunrise on Sunday, we'll start to see the drier weather coming on in, and the winds will gradually die down. WWL-TV meteorologist Dave Nussbaum says Hurricane Nate is still strengthening. It's expected to be a Category 2 hurricane by 7 o'clock tonight as it sits near the mouth of the Mississippi River, and that's about when the time we'll start seeing some of the worst conditions working their way across southeast Louisiana. Mainly winds around 30 to 40 miles per hour across Metro and New Orleans area, and along the coastal areas we'll have hurricane force gusts out there. And Nate eventually making landfall as a Category 2 hurricane near Biloxi, Mississippi, near midnight tonight. So storm surge is still a threat to the area, but we may not see the rainfall originally expected with Nate. Still, Governor John Bel Edwards has the National Guard in New Orleans ready to move in if there are problems with the city's drainage system.
Based on the forecast of the rain that we can expect, we do not anticipate any major flooding in New Orleans, but then again, you never know exactly what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. You have to be cautious, and that's one of the reasons that we're going to have those National Guardsmen in New Orleans watching the pumps.
And now your WWL forecast.
We'll see plenty of clouds, warm, humid, and muggy weather for sure today. It's going to be windy as well, especially as we head to the evening hours as Hurricane Nate moves closer to the mouth of the Mississippi River and the Mississippi coast. High temperature today, 84, with an 80% chance of heavy rain and wind with some of those rain bands. Now, we'll start to continue to see tropical snow forest conditions during the evening hours, continuing overnight across our area, along with some bands of heavy rain at times, with low temperatures in the mid-70s.
Tim McElwain, when you look at wins and losses, has been very successful early on in his tenure at Florida, but it doesn't feel like there's quite the love affair there that there was for Spurrier, obviously, in the heyday and the way things started with Urban Meyer. Is there a little bit of a disconnect there between the fan base and the head coach who's winning a lot of games but hasn't won the FCC and gotten to the playoff, obviously?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think there's really two reasons for that. Number one, obviously, Steve Spurrier was an offensive guru, had Florida marching up and down the field routinely, and Jim McElwain came in to fix an offensive issue that existed under Will Muschamp and hasn't really gotten it clicking yet. Florida's showing signs that it might be close. But through his first 2 years, Florida was bad on offense, and you can't be bad on offense at Florida and really kind of win over the fans that way. And then the second thing I think is, Florida has not really been competitive against the type of teams that they expect to be, the Alabama, the Florida States, the Michigan. So those are the two biggest reasons I think why the fans are still a little bit hesitant to fully embrace McElwain.
Hey, Thomas, how you doing? Marlon here. As you know, we've been dealing with a quarterback situation here, obviously, with Miles Brennan, Danny Edlin, but Danny's obviously our guy. With the injury of Luke Del Rio, and now that Felipe Frank stepped in, how do the folks around Florida feel about the quarterback now? Do they feel a little more confident in Frank, or because, of course, due to the injury, Del Rio's not in, or would they rather Del Rio?
Yeah, I think they'd prefer Luke Del Rio at this point. Obviously Felipe Frank has the physical tools to have some real upside down the road, but he's still a very raw quarterback, and I think you see that especially in terms of some of the intangibles, in terms of getting the offense lined up, making some of those pre-snap checks and reads to get them into the right spots to be able to execute. And, Del Rito's a guy that's limited physically in terms of arm talent and that kind of thing. But he was able to do those things very well, and I think that's why you saw the offense over the last 2 weeks really start to click a little bit more. So the offense with Felipe Franks will be a little bit more simple. He's got to do a better job of getting past his first read. But there's no question that physically he has the talent to be the next big quarterback in Florida.
Thomas, his first read would generally be Tyree Cleveland at this point, but Tyree Cleveland out with an ankle injury in this ball game. What's Florida's situation with playmakers on the outside for Franks with Cleveland out?
Well, the thing is, Cleveland was really the only one that they had that was a proven, consistent deep threat where you can throw it up and let him go win 50-50 ball. They've got some good other receivers. You look at a guy like Kadarius Toney, who's all involved in the Wildcat, very explosive player. I'm sure LSU has game planned around him a little bit. They've got some good possession receivers in Freddie Swain and Joshua Hammond, but I'm not sure they have the guy that can take the top off of defense. And so that's really going to put, a little bit of a burden on Florida's offensive coaches to figure out a way that they can keep the offense from becoming predictable in the short passing game and the run game. And I think that's going to be a real challenge today against LSU.
Hey, Thomas, it's a lot of changes that we had here with LSU's offense. Of course, quarterbacks and, of course, a new coordinator in Canada. For Florida's defense, what do you think really alarms them or would slightly frighten them about our offense?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, the pre-snap stuff that LSU does under Canada, kind of moving guys around. That's the kind of thing that Florida struggled with. This is a defense that has a lot of talented players, especially up front on the defensive line, but they probably haven't been as disciplined as you're used to seeing out of Florida's defenses. Guys jumping out of gaps here and there, which, especially against a team like LSU in this kind of run game, can be problematic. And then in the secondary, same kind of thing, losing your eyes a little bit and having some coverage busts. I know LSU has maybe tried to simplify things a little bit, given some of the struggles on offense, but they're going to need some of that kind of disguised motion and stuff like that to get Florida in the wrong spots. And I think you'll be able to take advantage a little bit in this game.
You can follow him on Twitter at Thomas Goldkamp. That's Goldkamp. Thomas, we appreciate a little bit of time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That is Thomas Goldkamp of Gatorbait 247, looking at things from Florida's point of view. When we come back on LSU Game Day presented by CSC, we'll get you some scores from around the country and give you our keys to the victory. This is LSU Game Day.
So just about a mile down the road from here is Plaquemines Parish, and everything below the Alliance Refinery, which is, I believe, a ConocoPhillips refinery, is under mandatory evacuation, mainly because of storm surge from the back end, which I guess would be Gulf waters that flow into the lakes and marsh. So that's just, the Alliance Refinery is maybe 10 miles down the road here. But surprisingly, there's not a huge amount of traffic coming up from LA 23. I think everybody might have already gotten out, or they're ignoring the mandatory evacuation. We're going to turn into Terrytown here, and I want to catch a building on video that may not be there if we get the winds we're expecting. See in just a minute.
Unless you do just what you like to do every day. You can deposit a check from anywhere. Mobile banking from Gulf Coast Bank is a smart way to manage your money and your time, easily and securely, on your schedule, giving you time for what really matters most. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. Cox Business gets those who've always done things differently because they're different too. They listen to your needs and offer personalized service to find the internet, voice, or Wi-Fi solution that'll fit your business perfectly. Switch today at coxbusiness.com.
Egan Insurance Agency is always prepared to provide seamless assistance in claims handling. If a storm hits our net.com.
This is WWL. Live coverage of LSU Game Day, presented by CST, continues on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
So this building here was built in the early 1980s and was originally opened up as a Western Auto, which was a big auto parts supply house that had a big store area and 2 or 3 service bays. And Western Auto went out of business pretty much everywhere back in the early 90s. And so there's been various things in this building since then, but most recently, all the way to the left side, it was subdivided, and the left-hand side of the building was a CarQuest Auto Parts. And a couple of years ago, Advance Auto bought CarQuest, and they shut down most of the CarQuest stores, especially if there was Advance real close by, which there's one about a mile from here. So this building's been empty pretty much since then. There was a Max Beauty Supply in here up until a couple of months ago, and it moved to the next shopping center over. I don't know whether they're owned by the same people, but I guess they talked them into moving out of this building. So about a month or 2 ago, they gutted the building. And when I say gutted, they took the front wall down, leaving the entire building open from the front, and as of yesterday, everything was still inside. The part where the CarQuest was just looked like an empty CarQuest, except there was no front wall. And it looks like what they've done is put up scaffolding across the open face of the building and a big blue tarp, and that is the only thing separating us from the inside of that building right now. And being that we're getting the wind side of this storm, we're not expecting a whole lot of rain, but we're going to get a lot of wind. I don't know what's going to happen to this building if the wind, because it's going to shred that tarp, and if it gets inside that building, it seems to me that the roof would fly off. So I wanted to get this on video before the storm, and we'll come back in a day or so and see what it looks like after the storm's over with. So stay tuned for more storm updates. We'll be back as soon as we can. I think the conditions are about to get a lot worse. It's 1:30 in the afternoon right now, and we're finally starting to get the rain, and it's starting to blow a little bit. There's not much wind right now. It's probably gusting in the 20s, but it's going to get worse. So I'm going to go home and wait for the storm.